All right, moving right along with this old Martin restoration rebuild. I'm ready to glue the bridge on. So I've got everything ready to go. I've got all 3 clamps in. Oh, and just so you see what I do with these clamps as well, is I've got a block on there of 1/2-inch plywood, and then I put some of that Teflon on there to keep it from sticking underneath. So that gets this off of the bracing. It drops the bottom of the clamp down, or I'm not going to be hitting it up against any of the bracing. So I've got all 3 clamps ready to go, and they're adjusted to clear the bridge clamping call. And I've got the ends backed out, so this is for scraping off glue squeeze out. I've got the bridge ready to go with the 2 pins in it. I have marked on the tape where I've got pins in the A string and the B string slot, because these holes, right over those holes, is where I'm going to put the clamp to miss the bracing there. And then I'll put one right in the middle. And I've got those marked in pencil. Now the tape is also here so that as I do the initial glue squeeze out, I get less of it on the finish, so I have less to wipe up. I just got to, work it off, and then I can pull the tape off, get the first pass of glue squeeze out gone, and then pull the tape out and go from there. So I'm going to first put glue on the top. And yes, this is more than I'm going to need, but again, for a good glue joint, you want squeeze out. If you don't get glue squeeze out, you didn't use enough glue. And some of this is going to come off when I spread it around with the foam brush. The other thing I'm going to do is, once I hand put the bridge on there, I'm going to, and I'll do the top first because that's the glue I put on first. I'm working from the inside out, which is the way the glue is going to squeeze out. It's going to squeeze from the inside towards the outer, because I want to have good glue underneath the edges, especially the back edge, because that's where they usually come loose first. So I want that back edge to definitely have enough glue. Good. Okay, that's good. Now I'm going to spread the glue around on the bridge itself. Now the other thing you're going to notice is that as I'm doing this, glue is getting in the pinholes. As I put the bridge down by hand before I put the clamps on, I'm going to run a Q-tip down in there to clean all that out. So we've got glue on both surfaces. Line that up and set the bridge down by hand. Push the pins down in. Okay, now I've got a wet damp cloth with a bucket of water ready to go too. So I'm going to do the initial glue squeeze out and wipe off. This is just with hand pressure. Okay. You can see where that tape is saving me a lot by keeping glue off of the finish of the guitar for the most part. Yeah, this is messy, but here we go. All right, now I'm going to go ahead and pull the tape off, usually in the order it went on, but not always. So it's done what I needed it to do for the initial glue squeeze out. And putting the glue on it protected the finish. Okay, now take my damp rag and I'm going to wipe the glue off the top of that way I don't have to do any cleanup when it's dry. I've got a whole bunch of paper towels all ready to go, dry everything off. There we go. Now, as discussed, I'm going to run a Q-tip down in through the other holes where there's not a pin, just to clean all that glue out. That's less I have to drill out later. If I can get all that glue out of there now. And it won't drip down onto the inside of the guitar. That one had a little too much, so I got it on my finger there. Clean all that out. Looks like I need one more Q-tip. That looks good. Good, okay. Now, I'm going to put clamping caul on pretty much right dead center. A little more towards the rear. Now I'm going to start clamping. I'm going to put one right in the center first. You know what I lost when I pulled the tape off was my pin locators. That's okay. I've done this enough times, I know where they are. I'm going to put one in the center first. I'm doing the one in the center first for a couple of reasons. That's the main body of the bridge where usually let's go plus. I'm forcing glue out towards the edges. Now this one, I can feel there's the pin and there's the brace. So I'm gonna go right in between those two. I'm not getting real tight this first pass. Just want to get everything in place and get a little bit of squeeze out going. I'm not putting full clamping pressure on. Let's see, where's the, there we go. There's the brace and there's the pin right in between the two. And you can see I'm starting to get a little more squeeze out. Not a lot, but just enough. Okay, now, put a little more clamping pressure on it. Now, to help with the not getting the glue squeeze out all over, I'm gonna take this palette knife. I'm just gonna scrape up that extra glue. Like with most glue squeeze out, you don't wanna remove all the glue. You want a little bit left behind. And that's because as the glue starts to really cure and dry, it's going to suck back under. So you don't want to remove all of it, but 90% of it, 80 to 90% of the glue squeeze out. And of course, I'm going to get more as I tighten up the clamps. All right. So I'm going to go at this again with a paper towel and a Q-tip underneath. Keep a big, huge bag of Q-tips here for all this kind of work all the time, just to get under those edges, to get underneath the, there we go. Now I'm gonna go put a couple Q-tips down, gonna go by it with a paper towel again. I'm still expecting more squeeze out as we go. I'm getting all the glue off the sides of the bridge where I got it up there with the palette knife, because I don't want to have to clean it up later. When it's easier to clean it up now when it's wet than if I try to wait till it's dry. Okay, now what I'm going to do is start bearing down on it. This one's going to be tough. I needed to get more clamping pressure on this one from the get-go. There we go. You can do it, you just got to finagle it. Okay. One more, there we go. It's a trick. You can start to feel when they really start to tighten up. Okay. I think that's good. Now I'm going to go over here, paper towel. Boy, I used up 8 of those really quick. So I've got a lot more here. I'm going to swipe out. Let me get it on the edge. Go in with the palette knife. This side looks good. I'm not worried about this side. Okay, once more with a Q-tip or two. Oh, I've got a couple right here. Oh, I used them. Oh, here they are. Okay. Get that cleaned up. All right, now I'm gonna go underneath here one more time on the ends. This is a damp rag. So I got it wet in nice, clean, warm water, and then I wrung it out really good. So it's damp, but not wet. This will also help thin down the glue that I leave behind, which will help it wick back under. It's a side benefit not planned. All right, here we go. So that's looking really good. So the last step here is to dry that off. Oh, there's some glue residue right there. If you do this cleanup work as you go, you will not have to clean up any glue off the finish, and that is the trick. You really If you leave glue on the finish, you may not be happy with it later. There we go. Now I'm going to tighten down the ends. And you're going to get more glue squeeze out there. Again, that's why I worked from the middle towards the ends, so that now I'm not forcing glue back underneath. Okay, now the damp rag again on these ends, and I can put it around the palette knife and work the palette knife underneath there to get that bit out underneath the end clamp. There we go. Same thing over here. Just going to wrap the palette knife in the damp rag and work it in there. That'll get it off the sides of the bridge as well as off the front of the guitar. Like again, it's okay to leave a little bit of glue because you want that to shrink back underneath and not leave a gap. A little bit there. Perfect. A little bit right here. And a little more on this side. This is looking really good. All right, I'm gonna dip the wet rag in the water, wring it out real good. And just one more time around here. All right, now wipe it off. Gently wiping it off. There we go. That looks really good. All right, stop messing with it. All right, we're gonna let that rest for a little bit, check it in about 5 minutes, but it looks good. All right, just gonna set this aside. And it's a lot less floppy now that I've glued down the fingerboard extension too. Boy, it was really wiggling before. All right, I'm gonna set this aside and then go work on something else for a little while. See you in a bit. All right, it's been 24 hours. Let's take the clamps off and see what this bridge reset looks like. A little bit of squeeze out there to deal with, no big deal. I always get just a little bit, but doing all that really reduced any squeeze that I had to do around the top. As far as any on the bridge, that's going to come off really easy. But that is a solid reset. It looks on the top like nothing ever happened. We'll just take a single piece of paper and go along the edges, and it was perfect. It's not going underneath, and all the corners are tight. There is nothing getting in there. I have a full wood to wood, clean wood to wood contact. So all I have to do now is with my little micro chisels is go along and just carefully scrape off that squeeze out that's on the ebony. Using a good sharp chisel like this, it will not dull the wood. I can probably get some of this little. I'm being very, very careful. I'm not going to scratch the ebony, but I'm just going to get that glue squeeze out off. And then we'll go over and polish it all up. A little bit here, but that's a good bridge reset. Sometimes it's just a matter of picking at the glue and it'll come right off. But we will go along and clean all this up, but there you have a good bridge reset. So I'm down to the last step, which is to re-glue the back. Get the back re-glued, and then we'll glue the binding back on. And then the last 3 steps. The last step, of course, will be to do a setup, but the last thing here is just to get, I got the tape in the way, get this glued back down. You notice since I re-glued the fingerboard extension that this is way more stable than it was. And again, the neck heel is glued right, and you know, even though I just hold this with my hands now, sorry, let me bump this up. If I hold this with my hands now and put a straight edge on it, that is looking like I have good clearance over the bridge. So we're at this point probably not going to do a neck reset. Just got to get that all glued back. I'm going to pull this tape off for now. I was just keeping the binding out of my way while I work. Alrighty. Let's get this thing all glued back together. Oh, just got to pop these pins out of there. Sometimes I got to get in and give them a little tap. But we'll pop those out. Pop out these pins and get that back glued down. We'll see on the net when we get to that point. All right, coming to the final couple steps on the rebuild restoration of this old 70s Martin. So I've got the bracing is all repaired. The cracks have all been pleated and glued. End of the fingerboard is glued back down. The crack in the back has been pleated and glued. So the last couple things before I start getting into any of the couple of frets that need to be replaced and then doing a setup is, of course, dealing with this separation of the back there. You can see the big, the back is separated. So the first thing I'm going to do is using the same method that you use to do a neck reset, is I'm just going to take some sandpaper, non-adhesive sandpaper, and run it through the separation here to kind of remove any glazing and old glue. I don't want to I'm not trying to remove any material like I would when doing a neck reset, but I do want to kind of open up the wood so that the glue will stick better. So I'm going to have to put the sandpaper in both directions. So I'm just putting it in, putting pressure, and then pulling the sandpaper through. I'm not putting a lot of pressure, but just enough to, okay? Now I've put tape on both sides that shows where the separation ends, so I know where I have to go, okay? So now I'm gonna go the other way with the sandpaper facing that way against this surface, and we'll pull it through again. A little bit of pressure. Now I'm doing the sides first, and then I'm gonna go underneath the neck block. And I've pre-cut a couple of strips of this so that I can... I'm being careful with this. I'm trying to be gentle. I'm not trying to remove a lot of material. Again, I'm just trying to, like, as I stated, open up the pores of the wood so to give the glue a chance to stick, okay? A little pressure, pull the paper through, okay? Another time. Okay. Now I'm simply going to take a fresh strip and put it underneath the neck block. So I'm going to run it in there, get it all the way underneath that neck block, put a little pressure and pull. Same thing. Run a strip in there, put a little pressure, pull. Do the other side. So the neck block does extend out a bit here. One. Now I'm going to turn the sandpaper around so that it's facing me back with it, so I get both glue surfaces. I do this a couple times. I didn't get enough pressure that time. That came out a little too easy. Let's do it again. And I'm just going to go the other way again for good measure a couple times. So I'm getting the neck block and the sides here. A little pressure on it. Okay. I'm not going back and forth, just pulling the paper through. Yep, a little pressure there. That kind of came out too easy, but you get the idea. Okay, so that's how I'm going to do that, and then we'll come back when I'm ready to put the glue in and put the clamps on. See you in a bit.